Kirk Frost and young Jock, two of Atlanta's most infamous reality show stars, pulled off an unexpected coup. Stars were embroiled in a fierce war that flipped the whole love and hip-hop world upside down. It began as a normal argument, but as tempers erupted and secrets were revealed, there was no going back for fans. Are astonished and social media is erupting with speculations that might alter everything for Kirk Rashida. In a startling twist, young Job accused Rashida of concealing a pregnancy. Apparently with none other than Mendes himself, emotions were hot as accusations flew across the room like daggers. What started as a private quarrel escalated into a public spectacle, leaving nobody in control of the family. Friendships were ruined, and the whole city was abuzz with the scandal they never expected to see. Rashida really betrayed Kirk. Was Mendes complicit? And how can Kirk Frost survive this devastating blow from someone he once stayed closely? Because what you're about to hear will make you doubt everything you thought you knew. The tension between Kirk Frost and young Jock began at a casual party when the two guys were attending a mutual friend's gathering. And at first, things appeared normal. Beers were flowing, music was playing, and everyone was having a fantastic time. As the night progressed, several people spotted young Jock looking across at Rashida. Kirk first disregarded it, assuming that Jock may have something to say but was holding back. Had a bit too much to drink, but things changed when Jock began growing louder while conversing to his pals. In a tone that made the whole audience silent, he lifted his voice and said, "Do you know what Rashida's secret is?" The room became quiet, and Kirk quickly turned his look to Jock. In an instant, the mood became tight. Kirk attempted to dismiss it, but curiosity took over everyone in the room, even Rashida. I was across the room conversing with her pals, didn't appear to notice at first, but as soon as her name was stated, all eyes were on her, and there was a minute of stillness before Joe spoke again, this time in a more suggestive tone. He said, "You think everything's perfect? Well, it's not." Rashida's Kirk's patience began to run thin as he approached Joe, attempting to hide something significant. "Remain cool and say, if you have anything to say, say it. Don't keep dropping clues." Joe, with a smirk on his face, replied, "All right, I'll simply say your wife is pregnant. But the actual question is, who is the father?" Kirk's face became white as a sheet. He hesitated for a second, uncertain of what he had just heard. His eyes widened as he inquired, "What the hell are you talking about?" Jock lowered his tone immediately. Easygoing but filled with malice, "I'm not making this up. Rashida has been spending a lot of time with Mendes when you've occupied with your tasks. And now it seems that she has a small surprise coming. But you wouldn't know, would you?" The whole audience was in amazement. People remained transfixed staring at Joe, while others quietly got out their phones. Kirk could scarcely contain himself as he smashed his fist on an adjacent table, smashing the glasses. With the hit, the sound was loud, and the tension in the room surged. Rashida, who had I was conversing with pals when I saw Kirk's angry countenance and Jock standing there. With a mischievous smile, she ran over, alarmed, and said, "What's going on?" Kirk didn't even recognize her at first. His eyes were still set on the joke. He whispered through tight teeth, "Are you seriously propagating falsehoods like this? You think you can just walk in here and destroy my family?" Joke just chuckled, shaking his head. "I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth, and you're too blind to see it. You don't even know what's going on, right?" Rashida's eyes widened as she moved between the two guys. "Dude, you're out of your mind. None of that's true. There's no baby, there's no affair. Why are you making up these lies?" Jock moved back, putting his hands up. "Fake surrender, no falsehoods here, Rashida. Everyone's talking about it. You think others haven't noticed? Mendes sees, and you late night texting hidden meetings. Come on, don't pretend like you don't know what's going on." Rashida now plainly, she shook her head. "You have no evidence. You're just trying to generate drama since you have nothing better to do." He only smirked, his eyes glinting with something wicked. "If you want evidence, how about all the times you two were alone while Kirk was out of town? What about the whispers swirling around town? What about the folks who have seen you?" He stopped for a bit, allowing the tension to grow. "Hey, I could even show you some messages if you like. Get extremely descriptive. Let's just say I've got all the receipts. Kirk couldn't keep it in any longer, so he pushed Jock with Jock, lurched backwards, and smashed into a table. You're out of your mind. None of that's true. There's no baby. There's no affair. Why are you making up these lies? Jock moved back, putting his hands up. Fake surrender, no falsehoods here, Rashida. Everyone's talking about it. You think others haven't noticed Minby sees and you late night texting hidden meetings? Come on. Don't pretend like you don't know what's going on. Rashida now plainly, she shook her head. You have no evidence. You're just trying to generate drama since you have nothing better to do. He only smirked, his eyes glinting with something wicked. If you want evidence, how about all the times you two were alone while Kirk was out of town? What about the whispers swirling around town? What about the folks who have seen you? He stopped for a bit, allowing the tension to grow. Hey, I could even show you some messages if you like. Get extremely descriptive. Let's just say I've got all the receipts. Kirk couldn't keep it in any longer, so he pushed Jock with Jock, lurched backwards, and smashed into a table, knocking over drinks as others hurried to get out. Yet Kirk wasn't done. His emotions were running wild. He was outraged, bewildered, and wounded all at the same time. Went to Rashida, but his outrage was too much. How could you do this? How could you allow anything like this to happen behind my back? Rashida's eyes flooded with tears as she sought to calm him down. Kirk, please listen to me. There is no affair. No, darling, you're allowing Joe to get into your brain, and that's all this is. But Kirk wasn't listening. He turned his back to her and glared at Jock with his fists clenched. You're actually going to come into my home and ruin everything, I said with a smug look. I'm not the one ruining my family's life just because you're bored. I'm only the messenger for your family. You've got some significant issues to resolve with Rashida, and I'm here to help you see it. The tension in the room was overwhelming, and Rashida was now weeping. I attempted to interfere again, but Kirk was too far gone. Stay out of this, Rashida. I'm done. I need some answers from you. Joke, and I'm not going to stop until I have them. Jock raised his hands in mock. Well, fine. Ask all the questions you want. But the truth is already out there, Kirk. You're just too late to realize it. Security came in to separate the two guys, and the room was left in disarray. People were chattering over what they had just. Some were still filming, while others were attempting to soothe Rashida. The night had begun as a joy, but it swiftly turned into a nightmare. The question hovered in the air: was Rashida truly pregnant? Was Jock telling the truth about Minby's kid? And would Kirk ever be able to forgive her if he found out? Realized that his greatest worries were true when the tension in the room gradually eased down. The harm had already been done. Kirk's mind was racing as he left the premises. Seeds of doubt had been sown and were rapidly sprouting. Unable to even glance back at Rashida, the sorrow, rage, and betrayal he felt were nearly overpowering the night. Begun as just another party, but suddenly it seemed like his whole world was disintegrating before him. Jock's words rang in his. Rashida, still obviously terrified, went after Kirk, pleading with him to listen to reason, but Kirk was determined to hear no more excuses as he walked into this vehicle. Rashida, I rushed out to stop him, but he slammed the door shut. Kirk, please speak to me and don't allow him in, she shouted as he drove away. But it was too late. The harm had already been done, and Kirk could not shake the visions. What if the joke was true? What if Mandis and Rashida were more than merely co-parents? Jock was immediately on the phone, spreading the news to anyone would listen. I warned you that Kirk has no concept what's going on right under his nose. He's so blinded by his own ego to sod. His voice was full of delight as he talked. He enjoyed the turmoil and drama since it was what kept him in the limelight, but as much as he relished stirring the pot, something deeper in his voice hinted that he understood precisely what he was doing. His remarks weren't simply meant to wound Kirk, but also to undermine the delicate trust between him and Rashida. He had always understood how to manage circumstances to his advantage, and today was no exception. Rashida was left standing alone in the center of the emptying celebration with the few remaining attendees. Attempted to soothe her, but there was no solace to be found. Her heart ached with a combination of anger and bewilderment. Had things spun out of hand so rapidly? Why had Jock decided to accuse her in this manner? And why was he pulling Mendes into the mess? And her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was a text from Mendes. "Are you okay?" When she learned what had transpired, she paused for a bit before texting back. "I'm fine, just need some time to figure this out." But even as she sent the letter, questions crept into her thoughts. Could Means actually be engaged in whatever Joke was accusing her of? The prospect was too much to take later that night. She was alone in her living room, pacing back and forth. She had attempted to contact Kirk many times, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She couldn't understand why he wouldn't simply listen to her. Jock had put the seed of distrust, and now it was all-consuming. Rashida felt trapped. She knew there was no truth to Jock's charges, but it seemed difficult to convince Kirk of that. But the more she thought about it, the more she understood she had to take things into her own hands. The next morning, as the sun rose over Atlanta, the drama only escalated. When they sat down to chat, Kirk's eyes were filled with wrath, disappointment, and uncertainty. "I don't understand, Rashida. How long has this been going on? And why didn't you tell me?" demanded, his voice quivering with excitement. Rashida took a long breath, attempting to calm herself. "Kirk, I don't know. Why is Joke saying these things? There is nothing going on between me and Mendes. I promise to you. It's all drama that he is." Kirk shook his head in astonishment. "But why, Rashida? Why would Joe create something like this up? He's not simply tossing about charges without some type of justification. And it's not the first time I've heard reports you've been aloof recently, spending more time with Mendes. And now this." Rashida's heart is broken as she recognized how deep the hole had been built between them, and she hadn't considered how her actions may be regarded. But now that doubt had been established in Kirk's mind, it seemed hard to eliminate. "Kirk, I promise to you, nothing has. Means and I are simply co-parents. We're doing what we need to do for our kids. That's all." But Kirk wasn't persuaded. "That's what he keeps saying, but how do I know I can trust you anymore? How do I know this isn't the truth? I've been harboring secrets, and now I'm hearing all of this from a Joke. I can't simply pretend everything's okay when it isn't." The fight went on for what seemed like hours, but Rashida couldn't get through to him. In a last-ditch attempt, she took out her phone and showed him the communications between her and Mendes. "Look at the text, Kirk. There is nothing there. Nothing that even faintly implies anything more than co-parenting." Kirk peered at the television, his gaze narrowing as he read the discussion. For a minute, there was stillness. He glanced up at Rashida, his expression uncertain. "I don't know, Rashida, and I don't know what to trust anymore." It was at that time when Jock strolled into the room. He had been loitering outside listening on their chat for a time, and now spotted the ideal chance to strike. "What's the issue, fellas? Still trying to persuade Kirk there's no kid on the way?" Joke's voice was dripping with sarcasm. "Came forward, I'm just saying the truth will come out someday. You can't conceal things like this forever, Kirk." Turned to Jock, his eyes flashing with wrath. "You need to remain out of this farce. You've already caused enough harm. Don't make things worse." But Jock wasn't done. "I'm just saying, I realize you have a right to be angry, but you." Rashida glared at Jock, her rage pouring out. You're not going to win with this Joke. I don't care what you think. You know you're just trying to make problems, because you have nothing better to do." Jock smirked smugly. "If I'm creating difficulty, maybe you should take a deeper look at your own conduct. Maybe you have anything to conceal." Rashida, on the edge of tears, turned away from him. "I'm done with this. You've spoken enough. Jokes. I don't need you in my life." With that, Jock left just as words hung in the air. It was evident that the harm was done. Kirk's confidence had been destroyed, and Rashida was left alone in the aftermath of the upheaval Jock had caused. The future of their relationship was unknown, and the falsehoods and rumors far from done. Rashida's following few days seemed like a fog. She scarcely slept, her mind racing with ideas. Kirk's joke and the horrific allegations that continued to stalk her every time she checked her phone there. There were messages from friends and relatives inquiring what had occurred, But no matter how hard she tried to explain, no one seemed to believe her. The rumors had taken on a life of their own, and no matter how hard she tried to clarify her, it seemed like everything was sliding more and further out of her grasp, and Kirk's quiet was deafening. He had scarcely talked to her since the furious disagreement that morning. He had refused to return her calls, and Rashida was horrified since she had never seen Kirk like this before, and every message she left went unanswered. He had always been the one to soothe her and stay by her no matter what. But suddenly he seemed distant and cold. Like the stranger, the guy she had spent so many years constructing a life with was suddenly the one she couldn't reach desperately for. Responses. Rashida looked to young Jock. Even though he had been a part of the situation, she wanted to understand. Why was he so set on bringing her down? She wanted to know why he had decided to escalate things this way. Choosing to drag her name in the dirt one evening, she resolved to confront him. She phoned him up, her voice unsteady. "Talked, Joke. I need to speak to you. This has gone far enough. You had to explain me why you're doing this. What is your issue with me?" Jock picked up almost instantly. "I'm not doing anything. Rashida, I'm only expressing the truth. You're the one who has to address your own issue." His voice was calm, but there was an evident edge to it. "I'm not the one making things up." Rashida fired back, her irritation spilling over. "You're the one spreading falsehoods, and it's ruining everything." "Why, Joke? Why are you doing this to me?" "What did I ever do?" Jock remained silent for a minute, as if he was weighing her comments, but then with a sigh, he eventually responded. "You want to know the truth. You believe I'm simply doing this for no reason. You've been concealing something, Rashida. Everyone knows about you and Mendes. You believe Kirk doesn't know because he's too blinded to see it." Rashida froze as the words struck her like a slap in the stomach. "You're out of your mind, Joke. There's nothing between Mendes." Jock grinned grimly. "I've seen the way you two interact and the way you look, and that's all. We're just co-parents. You may lie to yourself, Rashida, but not to me. I've been around long enough to know when something's up, and Kirk is too wrapped up in his own ego to recognize the reality. He's simply waiting for the right moment to burst, and when he does, everything will come crumbling down." Rashida's head was whirling. She had never. Jock's remarks were sinking deeper than she cared to acknowledge. She felt betrayed and alone. Was there truly anything to what he was saying? Were signals that she had overlooked? The prospect of losing all she had fought so hard for was awful, but she didn't know how to remedy it, and her relationship with Kirk was hanging by a thread. Link and the rumors were just making things worse. She took a long breath, trying to control her emotions. "To finish, Joke, I won't allow you rip my life apart. You need to stop with these falsehoods. It's over." Joke's tone relaxed. "But I'm not the one ripping your life apart, Rashida. That's all on you. But if you want my advice, you best figure things out quickly, because if you don't, everything will fall apart. Everyone is watching, and people are beginning to take." Rashida picked up the phone, feeling more bewildered than ever. Her talk with Jock had only left her with more. She thought she understood what was going on, but suddenly it seemed like everything was slipping away, and the worst thing was she wasn't sure whether she could repair it. Later that day, Rashida found herself at crossroads. She needed to contact Kirk, but he was still refusing to answer her calls, so she didn't know what else to do. Should she go to his home and confront him again, or should she attempt to contact his friends in the hopes that they may? In the end, she decided to send him a letter, since it was the only method she could think of to communicate everything that had been weighing on her heart when she went down to write. The words flowed effortlessly, but every syllable seemed like in pain in her heart. She had never dreamed she would be in this situation, begging with Kirk to believe in her and trust her. "Again, Kirk," the letter started. "I don't know where to begin. I never expected things would end up this way, yet here we are. I want you to know that I have never and will never betray you, regardless of what the joke is suggesting. True, there is nothing between me and Mendes, and I need you to believe that. I understand if you're furious, but please do not let this ruin all we fought for. I love you and want to make things right." She signed the letter with a trembling hand and put it in an envelope. As she looked at it, she felt the sensation of futility flood over her. Would Kirk even read it? Would he trust her, or were Jock's words already poisoned? As she headed to her vehicle with a heavy weight in her chest, she couldn't escape the thought that things were beyond repair. May never be the same again. She was beginning to lose hope that they might ever restore their relationship. Had already done, and she wasn't sure how to erase it. Meanwhile, Kirk was at home, gazing at his phone, and the messages from Rashida had been streaming in, but he couldn't force himself to read them. The more he thought about it, the Jock's comments tormented him, and there was no way he could simply dismiss them or pretend as if everything was perfect when his whole world seemed like it was disintegrating. Jock had planted the seed, and now doubts, suspicions, and concerns were developing within him, and everything was spinning out of control. The betrayal was the hardest to take. He didn't know who to trust anymore. Rashida had always been his anchor, but suddenly everything seemed unknown, and as the days passed, the quiet between Kirk and Rashida got even deeper. Unresolved tension between them lingered in the air, choking them both, and as the stories continued to circulate, it seemed that there was no way out of the disaster Jock had caused. Will Kirk ever trust in Rashida again, or is their connection bound to come apart? The days dragged on, and Rashida found herself getting further absorbed by the pandemonium. Her life had gone from feeling safe to an unending cycle of gossip, accusations, and inner distress. Kirk's silence was nearly painful. Each day without conversation seemed like a weight. Pushing down on her chest, she couldn't understand why he wouldn't simply speak to her. Why wouldn't he give her a chance? Justify herself. The pain from his coldness was almost more than the charges themselves. Yet even in her darkest times, Rashida couldn't let go of her love for him, with whom she had spent so many years creating a life. Kirk, and despite everything, she couldn't simply walk away from it. She wanted him to believe her and trust her once again, but the more time passed, the less optimistic she got. Was it too late? Had the harm already been done? Rashida was going through her phone in the evening when she spotted a message come up on her screen from an unknown. Her heart skipped a beat and she eagerly opened the message. It was a simple text, but it sent goosebumps down her spine. Spine, you're running out of time, or Rashida, if you don't mend things with Kirk, it's all over. There was no name connected to the message, but she didn't need to know who had sent it. It was a prank, and she knew it had to be him from his remarks. Begun to torment her, even in times when she felt she had a grasp on things. Manipulating her emotions and playing on her anxieties had just made matters worse. He was doing all he could to rip up her relationship with Kirk, but why? What was his aim? And what did he hope to accomplish by pulling her down? This Rashida sat back, gazing at the letter in surprise. She had tried to be patient and let things settle, but suddenly felt like the strain was increasing with every passing second. She wanted to approach Job and stop this, once and for all, but part of her was still terrified. What if he was right? What if Kirk had already gone too far? After considerable thought, Rashida realized what she needed to do. She couldn't keep hiding from the truthfully. She wanted answers and needed to confront the mess front on, no matter how terrible it would be later that night. Rashida planned to meet with Jock in a neighborhood cafe. She had to do this in person. No more messages or phone calls. Needs to be resolved face to face. As she sat down at the table, she felt a flood of anxiety sweep over her. The atmosphere between them had always been strained, but today it was worse than ever. Jock was seated opposite from her. You've been stirring up a lot of trouble, Joe, Rashida remarked, her voice, arms crossed and his expression impassive, steady yet filled with fury. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you attempting to pull apart what I have worked for? Jock shrugged nonchalantly. I'm only speaking the truth, Rashida. You and Mendes people see the way you appear at each other. I'm simply expressing what everyone else is thinking. That's a lie, Rashida snarled. There's nothing between you. Already know that Mendes and I have been co-parenting. So why are you bringing this up now? Another Jock leaned in, his visage deepening. You're still in denial, huh? You believe this is all about Mendes. Rashida, this is larger than that. You have Kirk fooled, but you are not fooling me. You have been concealing things for a long time. You've been playing the ideal wife. but everyone knows the truth. Rashida's heart hammered in her chest. Had never seen Jock this vicious before, and his remarks hurt deep, and the rage within her started to boil up. Hypocrite joke, you're attempting to destroy everything for me, Kirk, and our family. What is your actual objective here? Are you doing this? Jock reclined back in his chair, a smile spreading over his lips. Perhaps I'm just weary of watching you become. Perhaps I'm weary of pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. You've been living in your own little world, Rashida. But the truth always comes out, and it's coming for you. Her palms shook as the weight of his words struck her. You don't know anything about my life, Joe. Know what it's like to give everything for the ones you love. You think I've had it easy, but you have no idea. You have no idea what I've been through, and you're not going to tear me down because of your jealousy. That said, his eyes narrowing. Lean forward. Jealousy. Don't deceive yourself. This isn't about jealousy. This is about the truth, Rashida. Lied to everyone, and now it's time for it all to come tumbling down. Rashida stood up, hands locked at her sides. She had had enough. She couldn't stay here and allow Joke continue to control her and play mind games with her. I'm done. Joke, I'm done with this. If you think you can ruin me, you're incorrect, and I won't allow you to destroy Kirk and me. We're stronger than that. Jock rose up as well, his visage hardening. You can't mend this, Rashida. It's already too lately. The damage has been done, and if you don't mend things soon, there won't be much left to salvage. Rashida left. The Elizabeth felt like she was walking out of a nightmare. She didn't know how much longer she could bear the charges. Under the continual strain, it was all too much. As she got into her vehicle, she pondered about what Jock had said. Was it truly too late to patch things with Kirk, or was their relationship beyond repair? As she drove home, the weight of the issue continued to bear on her chest. She had to find a way to remedy this, but she couldn't give up on her family. But how could she restore what had been broken? How can she regain Kirk's confidence after, despite all that had transpired, the path ahead was unknown and the future was darker than ever? But one thing, it was evident that Rashida wasn't ready to give up just yet. She would fight for her relationship and her family nonetheless. How painful was it for you, viewers? Is Rashida's relationship with Kirk beyond repair, or can they continue work things out despite the surprise, accusations, and betrayal? What is Young's true agenda? Are you actually trying to assist or simply attempting to demolish everything in his way? We wish to hear your ideas. Drop your opinions in the comments below. What do you think? Rashida will be able to repair objects? Kirk, has the harm already been done? Joke's manipulation methods finally pull them apart, or will they find a solution to conquer this storm? Want to remain up to date with everything drama? Make sure you press the like button and SBSCRI for more jaw-dropping celebrity news you do not want to miss. The next twist in this drama, believe us, it's going to get more crazy. Turn on alerts to ensure you never miss the latest information on all of the hottest scandals. Let us know what you think. As usual, we appreciate your